This video is brought to you by Morgan. There are a lot of productivity methods and advice floating around from books like Deep Work and Getting Things Done, and then productivity YouTubers like Ali Abdaal and Thomas Frank, and I love all the things. I love learning about all of it. I'm a productivity junkie. I'm gonna assume that you are too since you clicked on this video, and if so, I'm Kalyn. Hello, it's nice to meet you, and make sure you subscribe and make it official because I think you're gonna like the rest of the videos on my channel. All of this productivity stuff that we are learning, it's good advice. It's good to learn how to be more efficient with our time. But why do some methods work for others and not for us? Is it a problem with us? Are we not doing things correctly? What is going on? I have some thoughts, which we are going to explain more in depth with each of these productivity best practices that I don't personally subscribe to. And hopefully by the end of this video, you're gonna feel a lot better about yourself and feel less shame over not following what people tell you to do. Starting with eat that frog. I'm sure all of us have heard this phrase. It's attributed to Mark Twain, who said, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So what he's meaning here is do the hardest task first. Get it out of the way. And Brian Tracy wrote a book of the same name, Eat That Frog. It's a quick read. It's got some good stuff in it. But with the whole eat that frog mentality, I don't necessarily agree that it is the best way to approach your to-do list. And I understand where people are coming from when they promote this method, because they're basically saying the rest of the day is going to be super easy for you if you get the most difficult task and the one you don't want to do out of the way first. And maybe that works for some people. Not everyone has the capacity and the amount of high energy level in the morning required to do a more time intensive or more focused task that you just need a lot more motivation to tackle. And it goes back to where it's the energy management versus time management. I did a whole video on this and why we really need to be focusing on energy more so than time, just because all of us have that different energy levels that ebb and flow throughout the day. So if you're interested in finding your best time of day where your energy level is at the highest, I share a template. It's completely free where you can track your energy over the course of a week or two and find out when you're at your best. My best time starts at 10 a.m. in the morning and goes to about 12 p.m. I think I can stretch it a little bit to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, but those are my core high focused intensity hours. However, I don't want to necessarily start my day at 10. I want to be able to get a few things out of the way first beforehand. So I do easier tasks to start with to build that momentum, to get me ready to tackle the more difficult ones on my list. You could call this eating the ice cream instead of the frog, because sometimes you just need a quick, easy win, a dopamine boost to get you ready and geared up for the day. The second productivity best practice that I do not follow is time blocking my entire day. And I don't want that to confuse you because I am very much into time blocking. I fully believe that it works. But when it comes to time blocking your entire day, that's when it breaks down for me. If you're new to time blocking, it's just blocking out sections of your day for specific events or tasks. It could be a 1 hour time block, it could be a 4 hour time block. You get to choose. But some people take this to the extreme. So I found a definition online that is attributed to a productivity software. I'm not going to name them, but it was on their blog. And they said time blocking is a time management strategy where you schedule out every part, and we mean every part, of your day. No. Does this image here look inspiring to you, or does it stress you out? That's what happens when you time block every single minute and you do not give yourself that time and margin and white space for a task to take longer than you thought, or for you to get stuck in traffic and for your commute to take longer than it would. When I've talked to other people who say time blocking doesn't work for them, most of the time it is because they were trying to schedule every single minute, even all of their free time, and that just doesn't work. I think it's a really good idea to plan your ideal day, but add the margin, add the white space, add 30 minutes to all of your tasks, And you're gonna see a big difference in being able to stick to your schedule rather than feeling like you're constantly behind. I also think time blocking is a lot easier when you have a digital tool because it's so much more convenient to move things around as needed because, like I said, the days change. So I use Morgan, which I absolutely love, this digital calendar slash planner, and I approach my time blocks in two different layers. The first layer is the theme for the time block. So whether it's a routine or it's a work block or it's a lunch break block. And then my second layer is dragging tasks into each of those blocks. So you can see here under my deep work section, this morning, I am filming this video, and then I have another task, and then I have some more shallow work in the afternoon where maybe I'm not quite at my best. And again, that is trying to schedule tasks in line with my energy levels and how they ebb and flow throughout the day. Morgan makes it so easy to connect to your task list. You could totally use their native tasks. In here, they have that option for you. You just double click and you can choose whether it's an event or a task. But I like to integrate it with my Notion task list just because I organize basically everything else in Notion, and it neatly brings them over here on the left-hand side. And then what I meant by saying I like to drag and drop is I can literally drag it into my calendar. I can adjust the length of the task. I can change which calendar it is associated with. So in the preferences, you choose the calendar that you want your task to be attributed to. And for the majority of the time, they are business tasks, but this is a personal slash home task. So I'm gonna just move that to the other calendar and it will color code it for me appropriately. Something else that Morgan does that helps you make time blocking so much more effective is they automatically add buffer time to your meeting. You can see here on Wednesday that I have a meeting with a brand, and Morgan automatically added 15 minutes of buffer space afterwards because I know that after a meeting, I'm more of an introvert, so I just need to decompress for a minute. I don't want to jump right into work. And so if I had a task that immediately was right after the meeting, then that doesn't account for if the meeting goes over a little bit. It doesn't account for me giving my brain a break between the meeting and the task. So I really love that about Morgan, and to be able to set that up yourself, you're going to click on your little headshot here and go to Preferences, up to Features, and this is called a workflow. So when you go into Morgan's website, you're going to set this up on the back end, and then it will automatically add that buffer time in your calendar. So down here where it says buffer time, you can click Manage, and you can see I have it active, and what I have it set to is I have defined that I want it to be on my event and appointments calendar. And I want the buffer time to be after the event. And for meetings that are 30 minutes or less, which is what that one was, I want a buffer time of 15 minutes. For longer meetings that are longer than 30, let's add a buffer time of 30 minutes. Morgan does it automatically. Also, please don't judge my tabs up here. That's another problem. Morgan is free to try out, but if you want a task integration like Notion, or they have other ones as well, you're going to want to upgrade to the annual subscription, but I can get you 15% off of that if you use the code Kalyn15. This is an essential productivity tool that I think you're going to love having in your back pocket or as part of your productivity system. And thank you, Morgan, again for sponsoring this video. Productivity best practice that I don't subscribe to, we're on number 3, is getting up at 5 a.m. You've heard of the 5 a.m. club, you've heard of the miracle morning, you've heard of I do my 5 to 9 before I do my 9 to 5, and it all sounds great and productive, and like if we don't do it, then we're completely lazy, because that seems to be what most professionals and productivity experts do. They get up at 5 a.m. I don't know what is so magical about that time, but again, we have to bring energy levels into the conversation. People have different chronotypes. They have different energy levels. Some people are really super alert in the morning and then they fade after 6 or 8 p.m. Other people, gradually their body battery grows throughout the day by eating the ice cream, not the frog. And by 6 or 7 p.m., they're actually their most productive. If you try to get up at 5 a.m. every day and that is not the way your body works, it is going to be unsustainable for you and eventually harm you in the long run. That's what happened to me when quite a few years ago, I was writing my first book, which I'm not even going to name because I'm kind of embarrassed that I even wrote it, but it was like a long, long time ago. And I got up at 5 a.m., I think for a whole month to just bust it out and get it done. And I did, like I was disciplined, I did it, but every single day I felt more exhausted, I felt more tired, I kept pushing through, and by the end of that, I was completely burned out and completely messed up my circadian rhythm. It took me a lot of time to recover from that, and I had to just make the realization that my body doesn't work that way. And if you're interested in learning more about like chronotypes and circadian rhythms and things like that, I think it's so fascinating, like how our bodies are different and unique. I read a book called The Power of When, and it goes through 4 different chronotypes. So there's the dolphin, bear, lion, and wolf, and will give you the ideal daily routine for that specific chronotype that you fit in. And if you combine that knowledge with the own data tracking that you do with the energy tracking template, I'll leave the link for that in the description and the video again that goes along with it, you're gonna understand a lot more about your own body and when are the best times that you need to be more active. Your main goal is to start your day with a full battery. And if getting up at 5 a.m. is completely depleting it right off the bat, then that's just not going to be sustainable. That's not going to be what works for you, and there is no shame in that. All right, the 4th one, and I'm kind of nervous, actually nervous about number 4 and number 5, to be honest, because I don't know. I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but I'm going to come out and say it. Number 4 on the list of productivity advice that I don't agree with is you can find planner peace. And the reason why we think that there's this perfect tool out there for us is because we feel that when we switch to a tool, it's like this fresh start, this new beginning, this blank slate, and it feels like everything's just coming together and working out. But what is actually happening behind the scenes is you're leaving back a trashed, disorganized, chaotic system, whatever it was that you have. And I'm not saying, I'll get to this later, but I'm not saying that all productivity tools are bad or that you can't ever switch. But when you switch to a new tool that has nothing in it that you are using for the first time, it feels fresh and clean and like you can actually breathe because there's not all this stuff in it. But once you start using it and once tasks start getting overdue and piling up, then you start to get that same uncomfortable feeling and you need to switch to another planner or another app to again bring back that planner piece. I want to make this clear. I am not anti-switching tools or trying new planners. I do that myself still as well. Because the truth is, these things may not work for you. You may be in a completely different life season than when you started at the beginning of the year. There's features in this tool that you thought you really needed that you don't use anymore and are just now very cumbersome. So I don't want this to make you afraid to shift and try something better. I just don't want you to immediately disregard the tool that you're using because there's maybe some friction involved. What that should alert you to is, okay, there's something not working here. What is it that I maybe need to change first before I switch to a different tool? Because tools require ongoing maintenance. They require us to use it. The tools, as much as digital tools specifically, can automate a lot for us, we still have to put in the work to use them and stay organized. The biggest thing to remember is that tools themselves are not going to magically transform us. The work that we put into the tool is what is going to make the difference. We made it to number 5, which is going to be a little bit of a touchy one, possibly, we'll see. And that is that all hustle is bad. A few years ago, we were in the girl boss era of like working yourself to the bone was the idea of success, and it obviously led to burnout and exhaustion. And that's why we kind of have swung the pendulum the other way into slow productivity and soft ambition and slow living. However, I think we need to kind of like come back to the middle because obviously constant hustle is not good. It is very toxic. It is very performative based. You start to equate your value with what you achieve and what you do on your to-do list. And I have a huge tendency to do that myself. But what I fear and what is starting to happen that I see coming out of this with pendulum swing is that we're starting to get a little more complacent about our lives. We're starting to coast. And if you have the money to coast, coast. But a lot of us don't have that luxury to be able to just take things slow due to circumstances that we find ourselves in. It's just a busy season through no fault of our own. Or we have a goal, like a monetary goal or a business goal that we really want to reach, and we don't want it to take a whole year to do it. It's going to require some effort. It's going to require a little bit of hustle to get to that point. So that's why I bring it back to hustle seasons. That is what is built into my 6-week sprint goal setting system. It's you are for a season, and for the 6-week sprint, it's 6 weeks. You are focused on a goal, you're hustling towards it, and then when you're done with the 6 weeks, you take a step back. You take a break for as long as you need to until you're picking up steam and you're ready for another challenge again. If you want to see results and you want to see results quickly, you do have to put in the work. But it's about working hard and not working non-stop. So I don't want you to come away from this point thinking that you need to disregard your well-being for the sake of achievement. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, I promote mindful productivity. I want to make sure that you're staying in tune with your body. That's why I talk about energy management over time management. But there are some times in life where you just need to hustle. Productivity is personal. It is not one size fits all. What works for one person is not going to work for the other. That is why we have dozens and dozens of productivity apps and planners and all sorts of different systems, because all of our brains work very differently. I also don't want you to come away from this video thinking we shouldn't follow the productivity experts. I think they're always trying new things, they're experimenting, they're sharing what has worked for them, and it may work for you too. You want to give it a shot, but also be discerning and know that what they suggest, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that that method is for another person, and there's a different productivity method or a different system out there that you can follow that's going to fit a lot better with your life. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new here and haven't. I hope I've convinced you. I hope I haven't scared you away, and I will see you in the next video.